Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm so excited today to be invited to the home of Pam Driskel. She is starring on a BET special, BET Plus, American Gangster Trap Queens, and she's kind enough to invite us into your home. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm actually happy that you came to my home.
Sure.
It's like I've heard so much about your show.
Sure, absolutely. And I wanted to talk about that. There's so much in the name of a show, American Gangster Trap Queens. What exactly does that term mean?
Oh my
Because
God.
some people may not know.
Okay. The term is in reference to, first of all, have you ever heard of American Gangster?
Yes.
Okay, so that is my male counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
Trap Queen, it simply means that it's an aggressive woman that goes all out. She's a boss.
Right.
In most cases, she have people that work for her,
Sure.
and it's about making as much money as possible. So it's like setting her traps.
Sure, absolutely. And your situation is a little different than some. Tell us about kind of growing up in Compton and how this sort of evolved that you got into this world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. I have one of those complicated backgrounds, more than anything because of the black culture. I have two sides, and I like to say that I grew up in the best two worlds. On my father's side, they were upper middle class. My grandmother owned property in so many states, and a lot in Los Angeles, as well as a strip mall, which was quite interesting for an African American woman.
At that time, sure.
She was the first black to move on her street. My mother's family were what you consider middle class, but not upper middle class. They lived not far from my grandmother, but to kind of show you the parallels, my dad's family had like about 300 square foot home back in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Right. 300 square foot?
Yeah, no, 3,000.
Okay,
3,000.
sure. I was
I'm
like,
so
oh my
sorry.
gosh.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
I'm so sorry. And then my mother's family stayed in a comfortable home that is kind of expected,
Right.
which was about 1,500 square feet, maybe 1,200 square feet. So, yeah, they were quite different but the same.
Right, absolutely. Do you feel like there were some elements in Compton that sort of growing up that your parents tried to shield you from, or that you maybe were exposed to that were hard to be shielded from?
Actually, that is how I kind of evolved in who I was. My grandmother, on my father's side, she shielded the children from her fears.
Right.
When she was growing up, my grandmother was she was raped, and she was raped by a white guy. And back then, you couldn't have an abortion, and so she raised the child, and so she had constant fears that it could happen to another child under her care. When you watch the show, you'll hear them say, I wasn't allowed to stay with my grandmother. It wasn't that I wasn't allowed. It was that she didn't want anything to happen, while she was caring for someone.
Right. And that can still be such a fear. Do you feel like in some ways when you're growing up, at least as a young child, your childhood was as normal as one might expect it might be? Or were there some elements that you kind of sense, okay, this was
because
a little
the
risky?
two families were so very different, they didn't really bond together. My mother was only 14 when she got pregnant. My dad was almost 18, and no one was happy. So I kind of moved from family to family, and I moved throughout my entire childhood. I turned around and I got pregnant at the age of 14, and I found myself homeless. So I was only 14. No, I was 15. 14. I was still 14, and that kind of changed every element of my life. And at that point, I began to survive. I always tell people that I begin to live in survival mode.
Sure. I've heard you say things which I think are so poignant, like when somebody's homeless and they literally don't know what they're going to eat or how they're going to survive, as you say, don't guess what somebody might do or the steps somebody might have to take. It's so easy to presume, oh, I would never do that. And tell us really about sort of the importance of understanding that we can't begin to understand what somebody that's homeless, what they're going through.
Well, I think that there's, first of all, a misconception of what homeless is. In America, we live in many stages of homelessness, paycheck to paycheck. Um, and then there's your actual individuals that become homeless and they begin to sleep in places that's not meant for humans to, like at the age of, I think I was about 16. I slept in someone's garage. Every moment of my life at that point, I was trying to figure out how to sneak in someone's garage or sleep in a park, and at the same time, not have anything bad to happen to me, which a lot of bad things happened to me along the way. And so I became desperate. I was raped. I So many bad things happened, and I reached out to my father, not knowing the problems that he carried. African Americans don't really seek mental health. They do not seek help.
Right.
Um, we kind of grow up believing that we're not supposed to share our demons.
Right.
And my father had a very deep demon that made him kind of unravel as a child.
Right.
And he grew up using drugs. He started off using heroin, and from there, he changed over to crack cocaine when that became popular. So, around this time that I'm homeless,
Yeah. No.
turned into retaliation. And even at that point, I wasn't thinking about what will I be or what should I be. Um, I was still thinking of surviving, but then now all of a sudden, I'm rich. And people are responding to me with respect. What I thought was respect, but in truth, it was them wanting what I had. And so it's just kind of it's a world that you can't really explain. There's so many twists and so many turns.
Yeah. To what extent, to our young kids today, do you think sometimes this may present an allure, and they may sometimes, be attracted, so to speak, to this life without really realizing that it really is a lot more complex and not just, about money and being rich?
At no point do I hail this as a way of life. Obviously, I'm not living that life anymore, so it must have not been for me. I don't think it's for anyone. When you watch shows that talk about people that, did these things and they had all these people around them and there's all this money and all these, things that we try to have. Everyone tried to have things. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to drive great cars. We watch it on TV, and I think that is the allure for most kids. What they don't see is the horrors. I have fought to stay alive so many times. I have been shot at. I have been kidnapped. I have been put in the back of an 18-wheeler and took to another country. Those are the things that aren't so pretty that they don't show on TV. They don't show it even on Trap Queen. Because it has to capture people's attention. But what I would say to someone younger than me or someone my age is that if you want to die, if you're into suicide, then it's probably the life for you. But if you want to be a part of the living, it's not the choice. It's not what you want to do.
When and how do you think your transformation began? What elements do you feel started to come together? And just even if mentally you were beginning to transform into who you are now?
The easy answer is when I got arrested. Because obviously that's a wake-up call.
Sure.
I remember when I got arrested, laying down on this metal bed and just going to sleep. And it was the deepest sleep that I could remember. And I talked to a lot of other people that were incarcerated, and it seems to be something that happens among people that are moving so fast that all of a sudden you're captured and you're still, and you realize how tired you are. And so when I think back, I was tired before that day. I was so tired, and I was so filled with a lot of the mental health issues that develop because you become paranoid. You begin to think that, oh, there's a camera in that light. Oh, there's somebody watching me. And in some cases, they are. I'll never forget the day I was arrested. They ran down a telephone pole. Well, not a telephone, the electric pole. And had been up there for about a week. So I knew around in that time when I began to fear everything around me that it wasn't the life, that I had to let it go. And I remember going to purchase books to study for a college entry exam. I wanted to change, but I was so stuck. And that's just another reason why not do it. Because you can't stop just because you want to. It's an environment that sucks you in.
Sure. For parents and for people that say they want to help, what recommendation or advice, would you give if they feel their child or their family member, their loved one is kind of being drawn into the light?
Well, the first thing that I would say is you don't wait for your child to be drawn into the life. Have a relationship with your child. Most kids kind of get loose and go into that world because it's nobody paying attention to them. It's nobody hearing them. And they're missing that stage in life where other children develop. There's kind of like this window of development when you realize what you're good at. Maybe you know how to draw,
Right.
Or maybe you're into Barbie dolls and you make doll clothes or cut out doll clothes. Um, those are moments that someone should be bonding with you. So my thing is talk to them before they get in trouble. Because once they begin to slide down that slippery slope, it's hard to talk. It's really hard to talk.
Sure. Well, we appreciate you feeling so comfortable being able to share what are some of the things that you're doing now beyond just the show that you feel really help exemplify, here's who I am now, and I'm really not afraid to share my truth, but I want people to learn and maybe, not follow some of the things I did and learn from the things I did to move forward.
Well, one of the things that I do now is, strangely enough, when I went to college, I thought that I was going to work in like this big building and wear suits and just be this fabulous person. I guess I still had an idea of fabulous because I had came from having so much money. But as I went to school, my classes began to reshape themselves. And I ended up working with homeless people. So I had my own business, but I started a housing program. Some more things happened that led me to do that. But I guess I understood their need, and I felt like other people didn't understand. And so I have housing programs in Long Beach and Los Angeles. Um, I started in 2003 after working for a homeless program called No Image. And outside of that, I've invested in property.
Sure.
I didn't want to be homeless
Right,
anymore.
as we see.
Um, I've also written a book, and so it will be released next month on the 6th.
Excellent.
Yes. And so I worked with a program called the American program
Yes.
with Jim Brown.
Yes.
And it's basically what the name says. It's the idea that I can do anything if I believe in myself. And so it's built on a curriculum that helps the individual to kind of visit those windows in their mind. I worked for Community Self-Determination Institute, which was a company that worked with the juvenile probation system and the school system to help juveniles to stop them from going into the juvenile probation system or to stop them from returning to cut recidivism. And so I've just worked with so many community programs since I've been home, and that's where I find my pleasure.
Sure, and that's what I was going to ask you as sort of our last note, where you and how you define happiness now in your life currently.
Happiness for me is being with my family. When I came home, one of the things that I couldn't push away was the fact that I had already had 2 children, 2 girls, one that was with me during my trapping, and the other that was living with her father. I couldn't be a mother. And when I had my first daughter, I thought that she was going to give me love, something that I always felt I didn't have. And with my second daughter, I thought, well, things didn't go so well. My first daughter is not in my possession. I'm going to do really good. Even though I was in this place where I was doing these crazy things, it was always that I wanted to have love. And so now I have that. I have a family. I have a husband. And I have my 2 daughters, too. We still have to work through some of their disappointments of growing up without me. But we have each other now.
Sure.
So to me, that's the best part of my life now.
Sure. Well, it's clear you developed so much depth and introspection. Tell us where we can find you and things that you're up to if we want to stay in touch.
I have, and I never, I never really shared myself on social media before, but when I did the show, it was like,
No
Might
choice.
as well.
It's all
It's out there now,
Exactly.
yeah. And so I do have a social media page. It's Pamela underscore Driskel. Um, I have my book that is coming out
Yeah.
next month, 1 to 6, and so I'm launching a web page for that, where people can purchase the book there, and also individuals that want to try healing through writing.
Mm.
Um, I'm there. I'm available to help. I work with another person that have an entire company that does editing.
Yeah.
Um, they can hit me up on there. I'll put that on my social media page.
Yeah.
I also, my husband runs a youth program,
Yeah.
and it is for youth football. They
Mm.
just joined with the Snoop League.
Right.
He's been doing this for about, oh gosh, 25 years. Pulled me in as a cheer director. And then, right around the time I started filming for the show,
Right.
well, first of all, everything shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I started doing other things, and then when it started back, I was recording the show, so I didn't go back to work with the cheer program.
Right.
But my husband is still the president, and so we have about 2 boys that stay with us now that we met through. Well, one I met when my son was in school. The other we met through the football program. So, I like kids, I like family, and I like doing family things.
Sure. Well, again, we appreciate you inviting us in and on your birthday nonetheless.
Thank you.
So happy birthday and
Thank you.
congratulations. It's such a heartwarming story to hear the level of insight you've developed and also that you're willing to share. Because I do think there's so much growth that can come out of this. And it's part of our journey for so many people. And we have to talk about it, as you said. So I really like you plugging mental health and the importance of that and just feeling comfortable to feel vulnerable, because it really takes a lot for somebody to say, I'm going to show you my truth and what I went through, and I hope you can learn from that. We're so appreciative. Thanks so much for joining us on Music and Medicine with your host, me, Dr. Moshe Lewis, and you can find us on Roku. We look forward to seeing you there.